Good morning, dear colleagues, dear friends. Welcome to Luxembourg, and it's a great pleasure to see all here at the 28th annual session, and for this session in this nice country. Let me first warmly thank our friends from the Chamber of Deputies of Luxembourg for their generosity and their hospitality this week. Also, let me use this opportunity to welcome new heads of delegations to the Assembly since our winter meeting. First is Mr. Ferran Costa from Andorra, Mr. Klaus Lindinger from Austria, Ms. Wilhelm Junila from Finland, Mr. Frederic Azopardi from Malta, and Ms. Susanna Amador from Portugal, and Mr. Rakhmatullah Nazarov from Uzbekistan. So once again, salute and welcome. And of course, we are also welcoming here all the members acting as heads of delegations. You know that some of them they were not able to attend this meeting of the Standing Committee. Unfortunately, we had also a very sad, let's say, event. We're saddened to hear last month about passing of our esteemed and very good, my personal friend, Estonian colleague, Mart Nutt. There was a sudden death, and of course our condolences are with Mart's family and colleagues. Also in April, we deplore the passing of Nikolai Kovalov, Vice Chair of our Ad Hoc Committee on Countering Terrorism and our former Special Representative on Anti-Terrorism. Of course, our thoughts are also with Nikolai's loved ones. Now, I would like to ask you first to adopt the agenda for this meeting, as a revised version of which has been circulated. The revision is simply reconsidering and, let's say, reordering so that we can deal with essentially procedural issues first, such as the renewal of the mandate of Secretary General, and before we move to more substantial and political issues. So we decided to fulfill administrative work and issues first, and then go to the reports and discussions on current political affairs that it's indicated in our agenda. So if it's any let's say, objections to the agenda, it's not the case, so agenda is adopted. Thank you very much. Now, dear colleagues, we are starting a procedure to renew mandate of the Secretary General of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, according to Rule 4041, and it's the second item in our agenda. As I noted in my letter to all delegations on 11 April, its meeting on 8th of April, the Bureau has unanimously agreed to recommend to the Standing Committee the reappointment of incumbent Secretary General Roberto Montella for a second mandate. Of course, you all know well Roberto and his work. Just maybe briefly again, to be in line of procedural issues, some maybe important moments from his biography. Roberto has brought over 20 years of experience working for international organizations, including from field missions in the Southeast Europe, where he garnered an extensive background in conflict prevention, conflict resolution, and mediation. He has previous experience also working for an Italian senator, 10 years in the OSCE governmental side, the Carter Center, and before becoming Secretary General, he served as Director of the Presidential Administration in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. And his election as Secretary General and I'm pretty confident, and I guess you agree with this, has brought new energy to our work, and he has continued to introduce a number of positive changes that we can all see today, or at least some of them. For instance, all the joint work, but the Secretary's input is huge in that, to organizing and founding, let's say, ad hoc committees, which we established to provide a parliamentary answer to migrant refugee crisis and to support the fight against terrorism and extremism. Of course, venues for our statutory meetings have been secured for coming years, and it's also quite, let's say, a unique situation that we have. Staffing rules and financial regulations have been introduced, making our International Secretariat more professional and the process more transparent. Participation of members to conferences, seminars, and other activities has increased significantly, and we're all experiencing it because the members are very active, attending many important, let's say, gatherings all over the world. And it needs, of course, Secretariat support. Overall, there has been a positive working atmosphere. I'm always emphasizing that, in very challenging times for our organization. You will recall that previous meetings of our Standing Committee have called for continued reforms to improve and modernize our work. Since our last annual session, additional changes have been implemented, for instance, by giving more space for topical debates on migration and terrorism at our winter meeting, for example. We now also hear about our election observations of the activities of our special representatives during our plenary session. So all those important steps that was undertaken, I think we enjoyed a great support, a very professional support of our staff, also guided by Roberto. And I'm sure Roberto will also underline in his report, which will come later on, and our Secretariat developed also very important media strategy. And I also like to thank here Lord Bonas, who was a very active, let's say, advisor, a participant, and sometimes a leader of the discussions that we had, even on the media strategy. And our Secretariat developed very, very interesting strategy to ensure that our work reaches a larger public. So people, they should know better what we are doing. And this outreach work is also important for any parliamentarian's activity. Along with the redesign of our website and the launch of mobile application, this will fully insert OSCPA into this digital, modern digital era. In addition to these internal reforms, I must underline how positively the cooperation between the Assembly and the rest of OSCE structures has evolved. And our political cloud has been strengthened through excellent relations with ambassadors, members of Permanent Council, and other OSCE institutions. As we will hear from the OSCE Chairman in office and the OSCE Secretary General on Sunday, this has greatly contributed to the fact that our activities are better integrated in overall OSCE efforts. So, my dear colleagues, in order to further consolidate all the good changes and secure them for the future years, I wholeheartedly invite you to confirm the unanimous decision of the Bureau and re-elect Roberto for a second mandate. Dear colleagues, we will now move on the formal election. This election will proceed in accordance with paragraph 1st of Rule 40, I already reminded it to you, which states that such elections shall be for 5 years and may be renewable twice by a majority of the votes cast by secret ballot in the second Standing Committee. So it's therefore now up to the Standing Committee to vote on the proposal of the Bureau. According to our rules, this must take place by a secret ballot. Of course, some of us have preferred to avoid this procedure, and we also discussed it previously, because we know, I already recall that we have unanimous decision of the Bureau supporting Roberto Montella's reconfirmation or re-election. But to avoid this procedure, we had discussions, but we then came to the conclusion that we have to stick and to be in line very strictly with our rules, and it was also Roberto's demand and his desire. So that will be the case, and it is really important that we remain a body that follows our written rules. It may be useful for us to reconsider these procedures in future, because despite of some work and corrections and refinings that we did before, there are still some provisions which could be maybe changed, but this is a discussion for future. I'm just offering to the Standing Committee to come back maybe for next meeting to make rules more clear without any dual interpretation and some complications that it might come. So, in accordance with our normal voting procedures, I have appointed Vice President Lord Bonis as a chief teller, together with Vice President Kari Henriksen and the Third Committee Vice Chair Mike Georg Link to oversee this election. The procedures are the follows. Under paragraph 1 of Rule 35, only those members of Standing Committee who are acting in capacity of the head of a delegation may vote. Heads of delegations may collect a ballot paper from the clerk in charge of the election, who is sitting behind me. You are all here. Okay. And complete their ballot paper using one of the voting booths, if they wish, of course, and then place it in the ballot box behind me. I'm sorry for this very detailed explanation, but I have to do that. It's mandatory. Please have your conference badge with you when picking up your ballot. Of course, when all heads of delegations have had the opportunity to cast their ballots, counting will then be undertaken under the supervision of tellers. I will announce the result as soon as it's known. So, after all those explanatory notes, dear colleagues, does anyone wish to speak before we proceed with the vote? I just will remind you any, let's say, supportive speeches, and I presume that it will be more supportive speeches. We did it before. It was quite a long discussion. If anybody wants to say something, of course, you can do, but we also have to take care of time, which is very important. And if anybody wants to wish or, let's say, reflect on something, of course, you can do that, but it's better to express your will with a ballot. If it's not the case, discussion on this issue and not additional remarks, I will now suspend the meeting for up to 10 minutes to allow voting. So you can start the voting procedure. Would you like to say something?
If you say
Maybe you say anything?
okay. But okay, then.
Yeah, but it's better to say.
Huh? It's better to say.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much. You already voted, but if there's anybody left, so please just maybe a few minutes and that will close the process of voting. Please, if anybody wants to vote, it's still a possibility for a few minutes.
Did you get the first reading?
So I'd like to announce that voting is closed now.
Աթև չէ։ Աթև ջան, ձեր օրակարգ կասեք առաջնահերթությունները։ Տեսեք 4 օր անընդհատ տարբեր տեղերում ելույթներ լինելու են։
Մենք պիտի հասկանանք մեր պատվիրակության համար առաջնահերթությունները որն են, մենք ինչ մեսիջ ունենք, որ դրան համապատասխան հասկանանք։
Պատվիրակության համար առաջնահերթությունը առաջին հանձնաժողովի բանաձևում փոփոխություններ անելն է, որը տեղի ունենալու վաղը այսօր բան չի։ Բայց օրինակ այսօր այլ փաստաթղթեր են քննարկվելու, 1-2 ելույթ անպայման լինելու է։ Բայց ես կարծում եմ, որ դուք այն առաջնահերթությունն են անպայման ծածկելու եք, բայց որտեղ որ մենք ելույթ ունենք, դες նախապես կասենք դուք տեղյակ եք։ Ինտերնետ կամ ինչ-որ բան, ինտերնետ ստեղ կա, WhatsApp ունեք։
Ունեմ, բայց ստեղ նայեցի ոնց որ չկա։
Կա, OSCE Parliament, OSCE PA։
Չա, բայց բանա, կա։ Մի հատ կնայեք։ Հա կա, դուք ունեք բան։ Կոդ։ Դու արդեն բացի։
Սա, եւ այստեղ գրում եք Լյուքսեմբուրգ, այսպես 2019։ Մենակ դիմացի լն մեծատար։
19
Դուք արժում եք աշխատում լրատվականում, թե
Ինչ?
արժում եք աշխատում, թե
Չէ,
հանրայինում։
հանրայինում եմ։
Բաց բան չկա։ Այնտեղ է լրատվական բաժին կա, որտեղ
Գիտեմ։ Չէ, ինչ-որ բան սխալ էր։ Հայ,
Այսպես է գրեք Լյուքսեմբուրգը։
յուի տեղը y էի գրել։ Լյուքսեմբուրգ, ահա։
OU։
Այո, արջի, 2019։
Քնեք։
Քանի անհետը չկա, այսօր տաղան նստեմ, ինձ խնդրում մի հատ ասեք վաղվա բանաձևի մեջ ինչ ենք մենք անելու, ինչ բանաձև ալանալ։
Բայց այս բանը չեմ կարող։
Հա, գիտեք, ուղղակի չեմ կարող հրապարակել։
Ժամանակի ոչ թե ժամանակի առնի, հեսա վերջացնեմ։
Հա, չէ։
Երկրորդ I switch it off. I don't know. Which one? Okay.
Dear colleagues, one announcement before results of elections. Please shut down your microphones while not speaking, because then our interpreters can hear what you are talking about, and they asked us to do that. So please, when you're not speaking, make sure that your microphone is shut down. So thank you. Well, so now it's an interesting moment, of course, to announce election results. Just to remind you, the majority of votes cast required, not including abstentions or spoiled ballot papers. So, results of a re-election of Secretary General: votes in favor 45, votes against 2, abstentions and spoiled ballot papers 0. I therefore declare that Roberto Montella is elected as Secretary General of the Parliamentary Assembly for a period of 5 years, beginning on 1st January 2021.
Yeah, I can just stay. Thank you.
Maybe we'll let Roberto to speak very shortly because his report is coming after a few agenda items. But now in this moment, I think it's appropriate to say a few words to our colleagues here. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you all. It's a great honor. I received this with a great sense of pride, but also humbled by your overwhelming support. I would like to thank first and foremost the Bureau, who in Copenhagen unanimously decided to promote me as the candidate to the Standing Committee. I'd like to thank each head of delegation for your confidence. I think it's a confidence that you expressed in me personally, but also in the work that this International Secretariat has delivered to you. As the President said, I will make a more extensive report later on during the day, so I will not say too many things now. I just want to thank also my family, Ivana, my wife, the children who have been here in this moment to support me. I've put them through a lot of difficult moments during these years, so thank you very much for being here in this moment. I will not say too much now, but one thing I want to say, Mr. President, and it's two of the most positive results I think we have achieved during this first mandate. You have made a long list of achievements, but I think two important things is the positive atmosphere that we've managed to create in this assembly. We've seen other assemblies having difficulties during these days. Here, I think it's a platform where even though we come from different places of the world, even though we come with big disagreements and big difficulties in this OSCE region, but we still manage always in this platform to talk to each other, to find the solutions. Of course, dialogue has to be a dialogue with results, but I think here we do feel the positive atmosphere not only in the plenary sessions and the meeting, but also you can say dans les couloirs du pouvoir, let's say, also in the corridors or in the moments of refreshments. You can see that delegates talk to each other, also delegates who have very difficulties with each other. So that's one achievement, I think, the positive atmosphere. And the second positive atmosphere is somehow, I think I have delivered on what was my main promise when I was first elected in Helsinki, and that is to assess the principle that this assembly belongs to the political leadership. The International Secretariat is here at the service of that political leadership, but it is very clear from all our proceedings, from all our decisions, from all the things that we do, that the imprimatur, the main guidelines that we get in our work, comes from the political leadership. And this is what I want to also strengthen it in the future, so to give more and more the possibility to the political leaders to give us guidance, to give us the way forward. So with these few words, Mr. President, I thank you all for the overwhelming support, and I look forward to serving you for the next term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Thank you again, and also I'd like to warmly congratulate you for this re-election. I think this overwhelming support reflects our widespread satisfaction, and not only regarding the daily work of International Secretariat, and I think with this, all the staff, all the members of Secretariat are, let's say, awarded with this huge support that you got, but also in responding to the increasing demands of our Assembly leadership. And once again, I'd like to wish you good luck in your coming term. So we will close now this item in our agenda, and item 3 now. We'll move on to item 3, practical and procedural matters for the 28th annual session. I have some announcements. Again, members of the Standing Committee will vote the following. The deadline for nominations of Assembly officers will 10 a.m. on Sunday, 7th of July. The elections for Assembly officers will be held on the morning on Monday, 8th July, between 8:30 and 11 a.m. Early voting for members who have an unavoidable obligation to leave the annual session before Monday will take place. Early voting will take place from 12 noon to 6 p.m. on Sunday, 7th of July. 12 noon, 6 p.m. on Sunday, 7th of July. I remind you that members must request early voting in writing. Don't think that's any comment. It's just a reminder of your rules. Now we have to approve registered participation under Rule of 24.1. As you may remember, this past February we agreed a small adjustment to our rules of procedure regarding Rule 24. This was done to clarify procedures related to signatures by members who have sponsored supplementary items or amendments. I have been in close contact with the International Secretariat about this process. The Secretary General has assured me that the rules have been diligently applied. This includes ensuring that no member has signed more items than they are allowed under the rules, and that national delegations are only entitled to the number of delegates as specified in the rules. As of this morning, I and Secretariat have been notified that a total of 22 members of the Assembly who have registered for the meeting and are unable to attend due to unavoidable obligations. So 22 members. Their names do not appear on this list, but in accordance with Rule 24, paragraph 2, their signatures will remain valid. Of course, the Secretariat can provide their names to any members who wishes. The Secretariat has distributed a list of registered participants along with an explanation note of the procedures they have followed. For the purposes of validation of signatures, does any standing committee, does any questions, or a standing committee can approve this list? No questions, thank you very much. Approved, because now procedure is very clear and rules are clear. We are now continue to the next agenda item. Just a second. So the next agenda item is a ratification of membership of the three general committees. This is also a requirement of our rules of procedure. 36(2). In accordance with this paragraph, the membership of the general committees shall be ratified by the Standing Committee on the Bureau. All delegations have been reminded of the request of Standing Committee that the distribution of members between these three general committees should be as equal as possible. The Secretary General has indicated to me that these rules have been observed and that the Secretariat is distributing voting cards for the three committees in accordance with as equal division as possible to comply with this. Is the membership of the general committees agreed? No objections. Thank you very much. It's agreed. Now, another agenda item, 3.3, supplementary items. In accordance with the Rule 21.1 of the Rules of Procedure, the agenda of annual session may be supplemented by an item or a motion of any matter with the competence of the OSCE, which does not relate directly to subjects proposed by the general rapporteurs to the three committees. In preparation for our annual session, the International Secretariat has received 16 supplementary items with sufficient support for consideration during the annual session. The list of supplementary items and its proposed allocation has been circulated, so you all know that. Note that in accordance with paragraph 1 of Rule 21 of the Rules of Procedure, the Standing Committee may place only 15 supplementary items on the agenda of the annual session. The Standing Committee shall decide by a 2/3 majority of the votes cast whether to include the supplementary item on the agenda of annual session, subject to the following provision. If more than 15 supplementary items receive a 2/3 majority in the Standing Committee, a ballot shall be held to determine which items are placed on the agenda. Please note that no amendments have been tabled for 5 of the 16 out of the 16 supplementary items. This means that if they obtain 2/3 majority but are not placed on the Assembly's agenda by the Standing Committee, they may proceed anyway under Rule 21.3, although there would be a substantive debate on them. Would not be. Would not be. So there will be, let's say, they may proceed anyway under Rule 21.3, although there would not be a substantive debate on them. Now, can I ask if there are any item on which separate vote is requested? Any item on which it's a separate vote? Please, Russian delegation, Mr. Tolstoy.
Спасибо, господин председатель, уважаемые присутствующие. Вы знаете, только что были сказаны важные слова об авторитете нашей организации, которая занимается безопасностью и сотрудничеством. Два дополнительных, которые касаются милитаризации Крыма и в Абхазии и Южной Осетии, как мне кажется, не способствуют авторитету нашей организации. Это не имеет отношения к действительности, и сколько бы ни повторяли мы одно и то же, ситуация не изменится. Какой смысл? Мне кажется, уважаемые коллеги, имеет смысл эти два пункта снять с рассмотрения. Спасибо.
So this is the one item they are requesting. Yes. So just to make clear proposal, there are two items, or just a one supplementary item? The two supplementary items would like to vote separately? Okay.
О двух пунктах, господин Церетели. О пункте Крыма и о пункте положения дел в области безопасности в Абхазии и Южной Осетии, которые являются самостоятельными государствами и не имеют отношения к Грузии.
So I could respond if I can at this moment, but I'm now chairing the session. But please, there was another request from the floor. Gerasimov, please.
Dear Mr. President, dear colleagues, we just received a message from the Russian delegation about exclusion of these two supplementary items from the vote, for separate voting, which they want to exclude these supplementary items from our discussions. And about militarization of Crimea, just three things I want to say. Already fifth consecutive year, the Russian aggression continuing against Ukraine. And when we are speaking about what Russia is doing in Ukraine, this week, let me stress your attention, this week, Russia-controlled forces attacked by anti-tank missiles the military ambulance with wounded persons and killed this wounded person and killed woman doctor by anti-tank missiles, and the car was equipped with Red Cross. And when we are speaking about militarization of Crimea, the number of military equipment and especially full restoration of the nuclear facilities of Soviet Union are extremely dangerous. So I want you to keep this supplementary.
We are not now the opening debate on this topic. We'll have a lot of possibilities during plenary and committees. But if you have any proposal according voting, then you have to just propose that. If any idea to vote separately for any item. So there was proposal for two items to be separately voted. So it means that we will vote for 14 items in a package, let's say, and then we will single out one and second for the separate voting. So that's a procedure. I understand it. So just a second, we will make these preparations for the voting. Okay, we will vote now. Then it's not a secret vote. It's not a ballot. It's just raising your hand. Pardon? Okay, so there are also two requests from the floor, and just we are limited in time for, according to rules, for 2 minutes. I think it's a Georgian delegation and a British delegation. So the Mark Pritchard and then Ms. Katsarov.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the items should remain as they are. This is a point of process, not a political point, but given that a political point has been made, I'm surprised, given the experience of the Deputy Speaker of the Duma, Mr. Tolstoy, to have made such a comment. Only 5 countries currently recognize South Ossetia and Abkhazia. They are not independent states. And given that point was made, I think given the United Nations and given the role of this organization, a Euro-Atlantic organization with NATO members here, with European Union members here and others, I think it's important to correct the record. There is no such thing as the state of South Ossetia or Abkhazia. Thank you.
Thank you. And may I missed, dear Mark, your proposal about separate voting or not. Maybe you mentioned it from the beginning, because it was proposed to have a separate...
I mentioned it at the beginning. There should not be. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And then Ms. Katsarava, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Certainly, I'm not going to comment on the independence of Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Thanks, my British colleagues, for your remarks on that. I will be extremely brief. Certainly, this supplementary item should remain on the agenda. This is yet again a reminder of unfulfilled obligations by the Russian side, and this is exactly what we are trying to point out in the organization and in the assembly, such as OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, and I call on all of you to support the supplementary items. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we will not open a debate, because his answer is very clear. The answer on these issues are in our numerous resolutions adopted by our Assembly. So we'll not go further. We can look at all documents there. Now, so we have to follow rules. 2 supplementary items will go separately for voting. The first, it will be the number 5, the militarization by Russian Federation of the temporarily occupied Autonomous Republic of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol, Ukraine, the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Mr. Gerasimov's sponsorship. So according to our rules, debate will be limited to 1 speaker against placing the supplementary item on the agenda and 1 speaker in favor. Each speaker may speak for no more than 2 minutes. Does anyone wish to speak against placing item number on the agenda? No? Does anybody wish to speak in favor of placing item on the agenda?
Dear Mr. President, dear colleagues, again, it's the 5th consecutive year now the Russian Federation has been waging and declared war against Ukraine. In 2018, its aggression has considerably expanded to cover the Sea of Azov and the Kerch Strait. You know about these events. In addition to the ongoing militarization of the occupied Crimean Peninsula. And by this draft resolution, we draw attention to this very serious threat to security and stability in the OSCE area. Let me provide you just some facts. Since April 2018, over 200 vessels bound for the Ukrainian ports of Mariupol and Berdyansk were stopped by Russian bodyguards. Ukrainian ports incurred losses amounting to dozens of millions caused by Russia-imposed systematic disruption of freedom of international navigation, including due to illegal construction and opening of breach across the Kerch Strait. The number of Russian military vessels has been continuously growing in the Azov Sea. And also the Russian Federation step up military escalation and intends to enhance its naval component in the area, in particular by relocating part of the fleet from the Caspian Sea. And I kindly ask all members of the Standing Committee to support this resolution, because during all our previous meetings, during all our previous sessions, the Russian aggression was mentioned as the key topic and as the key threat to the security in the OSCE area. Please vote in favor of this supplementary item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we are moving to the procedure of voting on this item, which already was announced. So we will now vote on inclusion of this item on the agenda. Who is in favor of inclusion? Please raise your hand. Raise your hand and keep it. Voting cards and keep it, because they will have to count it. That's to support this item to be an agenda. How many? Who is against? Okay, thank you. Abstentions? Abstentions? Favor.
Okay, let's go.
So now results are those in favor 35, those against 2, abstentions 8. So it means that this item will remain in the agenda. Thank you very much. And now another one, another supplementary item is number 12, the security and human rights situation in Abkhazia, Georgia, and its Khin Valley region, South Ossetia, Georgia, sponsored by Kasarava and Georgian delegation. So, just a second. As in previous case, debate will be limited up to 2 minutes, and 1 in favor, 1 against. Who is in favor? Yeah, I mean, who's, yeah, who's, no. Who wants to speak in favor? That's the first, please, Mr. Peter Osuski, head of Slovak delegation, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to say that in the fundamentals of Helsinki Act is something that make a clear place on the debate for this proposal. That means to vote against it means against the fundamental point of Helsinki Agreement. I'm strongly supporting this item to remain in place.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wants to speak against? Please, Russian Federation.
Спасибо, господин председатель. Я хотел бы уважаемым коллегам напомнить, что, конечно, наши британские друзья могут не отличать Северную Осетию от Южной Осетии, но Северная Осетия – это регион России, а Южная Осетия – это бывший регион Грузии, который в результате нападения со стороны властей Тбилиси ушел из этой страны и, по всей видимости, никогда туда не вернется, так же, как и Абхазия. Это то, что необходимо просто вспоминать, когда вы ставите на обсуждение эти вопросы. Что же касается замечания словацкого коллеги, я хочу сказать, что основополагающий принцип международного права, такой как самоопределение народов, он зафиксирован в первой статье Устава Организации ООН и в Декларации о принципах международного права, которые касаются сотрудничества между государствами, а также в принципе 8 заключительного акта Совещания по безопасности и сотрудничеству в Европе 1975 года. Поэтому, если читать документы полностью, то действия Российской Федерации по признанию независимости Абхазии и Южной Осетии, а также по вхождению Крыма в состав Российской Федерации, абсолютно соответствуют международному праву. И каждый раз, год за годом, мы будем ставить себя в смешное положение, повторяя те резолюции, которые нам предлагают коллеги из стран, питающих надежду, что эти регионы когда-либо к ним вернутся. Этого не произойдет ни через 20 лет, ни через 30. Но, безусловно, организация свободна принимать эти резолюции еще и 50, и 150 лет. Спасибо.
So, well, again, so the debate is over, and I think we will continue discussion on this topic, but I'd like kindly to remind to our colleagues who just spoke about some principles to look to another principles of Helsinki, and also, once again, to look at the documents which we collectively, during many years, and especially after 2008, almost unanimously in several cases, we adopted that. So that will be everything very clear. Now we're voting for this supplementary item separately. It's item number 12, and I'd like to first put for voting who is in favor to remain this supplementary item in the agenda. Who is in favor to remain this in the agenda? Thank you. Who is against? Thank you. Abstentions? Okay.
36-1-6.
Okay. Now results for the amendment which we voted, security or human rights situation in Abkhazia, Georgia, and the Tskhin Valley region, South Ossetia, Georgia. So in favor 36, against 1, abstention 6. So the item will be on agenda. Thank you very much. There are also, of course, 14 other items on which there has not been a separate vote, and I guess we can agree by the consensus here to put them, to keep them in our agenda. Is there anybody's against this?
We have to check two-thirds majority.
Yeah.
But if we can...
Yeah, but it's... Okay, let's double check that. Then we have to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, then we are now voting in a block on remaining supplementary items. And who is in favor to keep them in agenda? Please raise your hands or your cards.
That's when the Canadians should speak. I don't know. Andreas, this one you want to activate so that she knows that. Okay. Then you give the floor to Annie Fry.
She's not going to say anything. It's in the dossier.
It's in dossier. You just say.
Okay, thank you. It's okay, you counted?
It's all
Counted? Any against? Again, okay, one. Abstentions? No abstentions. Thank you very much. It's done. So just to, it was very clear, I mean, the result of that. 41 for, 1 against, and no abstentions. So all the supplementary items we voted for will be in agenda, but I'd like to clarify one also rule here. We have 16 supplementary items, but only 15 of them may go on the agenda. Normally this would mean that we would have to have a ballot, but I understand that Dr. Heidi Fry, head of Canadian delegation, the principal sponsor of supplementary item number 4, the integration of gender and youth perspectives in efforts of combat climate change, has agreed not to place her item on the agenda since it will proceed anyway under Rule 21.3. So, as the Standing Committee agrees with the placing the item on the agenda? No objections? No. Thank you. Thank you very much. So nobody's, let's say, has an objection, so it means that we, item 4 will proceed. It's under Rule of 21.3, and it will be an agenda.
There is the Cyprus delegation wants to make a point of order, and then we can go to the allocation.
Okay. Now, point of order from Cyprus delegation. Please, dear Irene.
Hello to everybody. Okay. Submitting a draft resolution to the OSCPA for the first time. This is my first annual session, actually. I came across a procedural matter provided for the Article 21, paragraph 2 of the rules, which seems quite problematic. I strongly believe that the choice between 2 or more supplementary items on the same matter should pertain to the Standing Committee, which anyway decides by vote which supplementary items should be included in the agenda, rather than be subjected to the logic of first come, first served. This logic, which certainly does not help small delegations, deprives Standing Committee members from their right of choice among political texts. In the same line, it should be possible for a compromise text to have more than one principal sponsors should their input justify such co-sponsorship. I would kindly ask the support of the Standing Committee members for a change in the rules as provided by Article 46 thereof, in a way that would better suit a political steering body such as the OSCE-PA Standing Committee. I would kindly ask the President to guide the Standing Committee regarding this process.
Thank you very much, dear Irene, for your contribution. If you heard that at the beginning, when I was talking about the rules and procedures and making some clarifications, I told our distinguished colleagues here that there are a number of maybe rules and some provisions in our, let's say, local, our own constitution here to be refined, and we will work with some members of Standing Committee and, of course, with Lord Bonus and the Secretariat to, let's say, follow the wishes and realities that should be really changed and refined as far as we started this process of our internal reform. So it's noted, it's taken in consideration, and we will respond certainly on our next Standing Committee to this issue. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to allocation of supplementary items. We shall now decide on the allocation of all of them. In accordance with the rule of 21(1), the Standing Committee shall decide by a majority of the votes cast whether to refer a supplementary item to the competent committee or to submit to the plenary. The proposed allocation of supplementary items has been distributed already. Are there any objections to the allocation proposed? No objections. Thank you very much. So thank you that you decided that unanimously and supported a proposal. So it will be allocated as proposed. Does anyone wish to speak in favor? No, that's already that's solved. So now we not need any let's say additional voting. So thank you for your cooperation. And now our next item for our Standing Committee agenda is financial questions. As I told you, we decided to complete all this, let's say, administrative, organizational work related also with finances and budget in this part, and a report of the Treasurer of the OSCPA Parliamentary Assembly, Doris Burnett, will now on our agenda for discussion and a presentation, financial situation and annual contributions. Dear Doris, you have the floor.
Vielen Dank, Herr Präsident. Heute ist der 4. Juli und an dieser Stelle möchte ich unseren amerikanischen Freunden zu ihrem 243. 4. Juli ganz herzlich gratulieren. Eine ganz junge Demokratie, von der wir viel lernen können. Kommen wir nun zum Finanzbericht. Erstens haben Sie ihn schriftlich vorliegen. Und ich glaube nicht, dass ich Ihnen den jetzt Wort für Wort vorlesen muss. Aber lassen Sie mich ein paar Sachen daraus herauspicken. Zunächst einmal möchte ich allen Mitgliedsparlamenten danken, die bisher unsere Jahrestagung als Gastgeber durchgeführt haben. Deswegen heute ein ganz besonderer Dank an unsere Luxemburger Gastgeber. Auf diese Art und Weise gibt es keine. Is there no translation into English?
It's a no translation.
Really?
Dans la cabine russe.
Okay.
Okay, dann.
Please, Doris. Sorry.
Dann versuchen wir es noch einmal. Zunächst möchte ich all den Parlamenten danken, die Gastgeber unserer Jahrestagung waren und jetzt auch sind und zukünftig sein werden. Denn damit sparen sie unserer Organisation erhebliche Geldmittel, die wir sonst irgendwie. Und Sie wissen alle, wenn Sie eine solche Veranstaltung durchführen, dass das schon Kosten verursacht. Deswegen nochmals an die Gastländer herzlichen Dank. Can I have the microphone? So, unsere Finanzen sind in einem wirklich guten Zustand. Dafür trägt natürlich das Generalsekretariat unter Roberto Montella und Gustavo Palares, natürlich auch mit der neuen Frau an ihrer Seite, Marietta Samac, einen großen Teil dazu bei. Denn sie achten darauf, dass die Mittel so kosteneffektiv und effizient wie möglich auch verbleiben und nichts unnötig ausgegeben werden. Auf jeden Fall ist es wichtig, dass Sie wissen, dass unser Budget auch ständig unter Aufsicht ist, also ständig von einer dritten externen Seite kontrolliert wird und wir bisher noch nie Probleme hatten, bei diesen Kontrollen. Das heißt, unsere Haushalte waren bisher immer absolut in Ordnung. Ich habe das Budget, also den Etat für das kommende Haushaltsjahr, was ja im 1. Oktober beginnt, 2019 bis 30. September 2020, Ihnen bereits vorgelegt in unserer Sitzung in Kopenhagen, dem Ständigen Ausschuss. Und Sie hatten auch die Möglichkeit, dann mir Ihre Anmerkungen oder Kritik oder Veränderungswünsche zu geben. Da sind keine eingegangen. Ich möchte Sie allerdings darauf hinweisen, dass unser diesjähriger Etat, unser diesjähriger Haushalt einen Anstieg hat von 186.499 €, obwohl wir bereits über 40.000 € an anderer Stelle einsparen konnten, hat es diesen Aufwuchs. Die Ursache finden Sie darin, dass wir alle ja entschieden haben, in den Medien besser sichtbar zu sein. Wir haben entschieden, wir brauchen eine Medienstrategie und eine bessere Sichtbarkeit. Deswegen haben wir auch 2 weitere Personen eingestellt, eine in Kopenhagen und eine in Wien. Und das verursacht natürlich auch Kosten, aber andererseits sind wir jetzt auch viel besser aufgestellt und können unsere Arbeit nach draußen viel besser auch präsentieren. Und die Leute sehen, dass wir hier nicht nur ein Verein sind, der sich in einer schönen Gegend trifft, sondern, wie wir gerade eben bei den Abstimmungen gesehen haben, uns ganz ernsthaft mit den wichtigen Themen in unseren Ländern auseinandersetzen. Und ein ganz kleiner Anteil geht natürlich auch immer darauf, dass Gehälter angepasst werden müssen. Unsere Leute, also da stehen wir auch in Konkurrenz mit anderen internationalen Organisationen, die gute Leute sehr gerne abwerben. Und deswegen müssen wir aufpassen, dass unsere Leute wenigstens auf dem gleichen Level sind wie andere internationale Mitarbeiter, damit sie uns erhalten bleiben. Und ein weiterer kleiner Punkt kommt hinzu. Im kommenden Jahr findet die Jahrestagung in Toronto statt. Also von Kopenhagen ist es nicht weit nach Luxemburg, aber nach Toronto, wo dann auch Vorbereitungen zu machen sind, also wo die Reisekosten etwas höher sind nächstes Jahr, die verursachen da natürlich auch entsprechende einen Anstieg in unserem Haushaltsplan. Das ist dann auch die Ursache dafür.
Vancouver.
Ja, nicht Toronto, Entschuldigung, Vancouver. Ja, okay. Das kommt davon, wenn man doch nicht alles abliest, aber ich denke, das brauche ich auch hier nicht, sonst wird es ja zu lang. Okay, wir sind nächstes Jahr in Vancouver und das verursacht halt die Extrakosten. So, und, aber trotzdem habe ich ja schon gesagt, ist es der Verwaltung gelungen, an anderer Stelle 44.000 € einzusparen, sonst würden unsere Mehrausgaben über 200.000 € liegen. Ich möchte an dieser Stelle nochmals den ganzen Ländern danken, die uns unterstützen. Und wir sind ja bei unserem Haushalt nicht abhängig von den Entscheidungen des Ministerial Council, sondern wir entscheiden selbstständig. Und ich bin froh, dass unsere slowakischen Freunde es erreicht haben, einen Kompromiss hinzubekommen, was eben die Beitragssätze anbelangt. Und so werden auch unsere Beitragssätze jetzt verteilt und sind zu begleichen. Also danke für den Erfolg. Das kann man auch mal hier an dieser Stelle sagen, denn als wir als Ständiger Ausschuss letzte Mal zusammen waren, war das nämlich noch lange nicht klar in Wien. Und an dieser Stelle möchte ich dann nochmals darauf hinweisen, dass es ohne die Unterstützung unserer Länder nicht geht. Vielen Dank der italienischen Regierung, die, auch wenn sie Haushaltsprobleme hat, uns trotzdem einen Mann abgestellt hat, den sie bezahlt. Die deutsche Bundesregierung macht das auch. Sie sekundiert auch einen Mann in Wien. Und wir danken natürlich Luxemburg und im Herbst Marokko, dem marokkanischen Parlament, dass sie uns als Gastgeber unserer Veranstaltung haben und dann auch mitfinanzieren. Natürlich kann man auch immer wieder außerordentliche Beiträge leisten, wie das, indem man Seminare oder andere Konferenzen unterstützt, wie zum Beispiel das Leinsweiler Seminar oder auch Aserbaidschan hat jetzt diese Seidenstraßeninitiative gestartet, die dann auch mit unterstützt wird. Vor allem allerdings darf ich dem dänischen und dem österreichischen Parlament danken, die uns als Hausherren Unterkunft gewähren in ihren Räumlichkeiten und dadurch auch uns sehr viel Geld sparen. Ich möchte hier an dieser Stelle auch die Gelegenheit nutzen, mich von Ihnen in meiner Funktion als Schatzmeisterin zu verabschieden. Ich werde nicht wieder als Schatzmeisterin kandidieren. Sie haben es vielleicht mitbekommen, ich kandidiere als Präsidentin. Nicht gegen George, sondern für mich. Das möchte ich hier nochmal betonen. Und an dieser Stelle möchte ich bei meinen Zuarbeitern, die so hervorragende Arbeit geleistet haben, den Haushaltsplan endlich lesbar zu machen, nicht mehr so, dass er so einem Durcheinander macht, danken. Und das ist an allererster Linie Roberto Montella, Gustavo Palares und natürlich Marietta Samac. Euch allen ganz, ganz herzlichen Dank und ich wünsche dem zukünftigen Schatzmeister so viel Erfolg, wie ich ihn haben durfte, mit so tollen Leuten an der Seite. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
Thank you very much, dear Doris. Was really quite a comprehensive overview on budget, on financial issues. Even maybe beyond this, you also mentioned the process in which we are at this moment, but we have 3 or 4 days now to discuss those things on elections and so on. But really, thank you very much for being a very good partner for our Secretariat. And all the countries, of course, they deserve many thanks from our Assembly and from the leadership for their support. Contributions, would it be budgetary or not budgetary contributions. Of course, there are always some wishes, some question marks, how we can proceed with budget, what will be, what would be better in future, and we will see now whether maybe our new and also very competent treasurer, which Parliamentary Assembly will elect. But yes, there are many things which we can do if we could have more financial resources. I'm always underlining that this exceptional case when a parliamentary organization with such a small budget makes, great work, maybe sometimes much more than other organizations with 10 or 20 times more budget that we have. So now, any standing committee, the standing committee now accordingly approve the budget for the financial year from October 2019 to 30 September 2020, as endorsed at our Bureau meeting in Copenhagen in April. So thank you very much. It's endorsed. The budget will be made available to the Assembly in accordance with paragraph 2 of Rule 41 of the Rules of Procedure. So, thank you again. This concluded this part of our discussions, and as I told you, now we'll move to remaining parts of our agenda, and now it's my report. And now I will report on my activities as a president of this Assembly. So, I will get... Where are we? Okay. Well, dear colleagues, of course I will deliver this afternoon an opening address, and now allow me to simply give some impressions from my activities this spring. You will find that the comprehensive report of my work as President since the last annual session has been distributed. As you know, our Assembly has begun to implement a new set of guidelines for our election observation, and I was able to see this in practice 3 times this spring. After our winter meeting, I served as a special coordinator for the parliamentary elections in Moldova. In late April, I replaced my dear friend Ilka Kanerva to lead the efforts for the second round of the presidential elections in Ukraine. And just last month, I again served in that capacity for the early presidential elections in Kazakhstan. I will report on these elections in greater detail during our closing plenary, but I would like to already note here the good overall cooperation we have enjoyed both with our institutional partners and the authorities of the host countries. We have produced some robust statements which will be used and will be useful as Moldova, Ukraine and Kazakhstan continue their democratization efforts, and which will help guide some of the conversation we'll have with our colleagues in the years to come. Our good cooperation with ODIHR has also illustrated this spring with a conference on parliamentary oversight, which was hosted by the Parliament of Georgia and which several of you attended. We hope to repeat this kind of joint event on a regular basis, and I would like to thank our Armenian colleagues to offering to be the next hosts. We look forward to being in Yerevan for that event. This March, I completed a visit to all OSCE institutions by meeting with the OSCE High Commissioner on National Minorities in The Hague. Our conversation with Ambassador Lamberto Zanier revealed growing difficulties for the High Commissioner to cooperate with parliaments and ensure that High Commissioner's recommendations and guidelines are taken into account when developing national legislation. I therefore committed the PA to more closely engage with our parliaments in order to facilitate High Commissioner's work with a view of easing inter-ethnic tensions across the OSCE region. In The Hague, I also met Hajira Arib, President of the House of Representatives, Ankie Broger-Knoll, then President of the Senate, and of course, esteemed members of the delegation of the Netherlands in the Parliamentary Assembly, to the Parliamentary Assembly. As in most of my visits, discussion touched on major international issues, but we also talked about initiatives aimed at resolving practical issues between opposing OSCE countries. Together, we discussed a very concrete proposal which I have asked our Special Representative on Mediation, Ilka Kanerva, to look into. On the occasion of the Bureau meeting in Copenhagen on April 8, we welcomed Albanian President Ilir Meta with OSCE Secretary General Thomas Greminger. In our exchanges, I noted the importance of overcoming the political differences that have stood in the way of principled discussions and removing obstacles that continue to delay the OSCE budget from being adopted in a timely fashion and prevents OSCE institutions from carrying out their mandates. In a lengthy conversation with President Meta, we also discussed Albanian domestic challenges and political developments. Both Secretary General Montella and I welcomed Albania's commitment to chair the OSCE in 2020, and which we considered as an act of courage, responsibility and generosity. With the chairmanship in sight, we stressed the need for Albanian politicians to promote a positive image through political convergence and compromise we must materialize in the appropriate fora through responsible dialogue and cooperation. And we are really very closely watching all the events, what's happening nowadays in Albania. Throughout this spring, we have also, as I said, closely watching all the developments there and stood ready to engage our expertise and all our instruments in cooperation and coordination with the OSCE's governmental state side and institutions. Just last week, we issued, together with Chairperson in Office Lajcak, Secretary General Greminger, myself and Roberto, a statement regretting the political tension and impasse in Albania. We continue to stand ready to help find a way out of the crisis. And I'd like to emphasize that it's a very, let's say, rare and quite a unique event when all the leaders of the OSCE coming up with the statements, and I think it shows real strong unity of our institutions. It's very important to keep and to strengthen multilateralism. Later in April, I met in Minsk with the president of the country, Alexander Lukashenko, to emphasize the importance of close cooperation between Belarus and Parliamentary Assembly, discussed efforts to put an end to armed conflict in eastern Ukraine through the Minsk negotiating process, and address the status of democratic reforms. I also followed up on the need of safeguard fundamental rights and ensure an even playing field ahead of parliamentary elections this fall with Speaker Vladimir Andreychenko, our colleague Boleslav Pistuk, and representatives from opposition parties and civil society. There I participated in the parliamentary conference of the Silk Road Support Group and noted concerns voiced regarding the growing influence of China in the OSCE area, including during our Copenhagen Bureau meeting, and welcomed the opportunity to encourage greater parliamentary oversight over Belt and Road projects. The following week, I was happy to participate in this year's edition of the Leinsweiler seminar organized by Doris Barnett and German delegation. I would like to thank again Bundestag and the German Foreign Ministry for their continued support to promote dialogue between OSCE participating states. These efforts were echoed by a visit to Baku last month for a conference on regional cooperation and security, where I had an opportunity to speak with parliamentary leaders from Azerbaijan, Germany, and Turkey. In high-level meetings, I also followed up on efforts to advance parliamentary contributions to peace in the South Caucasus by reiterating an invitation for speakers of Azerbaijan and Armenia to meet under our auspices. I plan on traveling to Yerevan at the earliest opportunity, being in Baku before, to conduct high-level meetings to further push this project. In late May, I took part in a study visit to explore the local and global impact of climate change, together with second committee chaired by Nils Sena, rapporteur. Also, Elona Hoja was with us, and the delegation of Norway, led by Siv Mossleth and Vice President Kari Henriksen. Of course, once again, I'd like to extend our thanks and gratitude for great organization and hospitality which we received in Norway, specifically in Svalbard, one of the world's northmost inhabited areas. We witnessed new local realities in high north and considered how climate change poses security risks for the entire OSCE region. This visit was important for us to further understand the concerns emerging from Norway and other Arctic countries, and we see how young people are committed and concerned for their future and how to tackle this problem. In meetings in Oslo and ministers and also with ministers and also with the Speaker of Parliament, we further highlighted the need of Arctic countries to maintain concerted efforts to safeguard the High North as an area of peaceful cooperation, while all OSCE countries must commit to the protection of the nature and biodiversity of the Arctic. In order to support international cooperation and security dialogue in the High North and the alert OSCE parliamentarians to the threat of climate change, I have appointed Toril Elsheim as Special Representative on Arctic issues, and I look forward to hear her first report later this week. Earlier this year, I have also tasked Vice President Margareta Cederfeld to carry out a report on the investigation of the assassination of Boris Nemtsov. This was done upon the request of several our members and based on a call by our Assembly last year in Berlin. I look forward to hearing from Margareta today and during a side event she will host during the weekend. 2 weeks ago, I visited Cyprus to encourage continued engagement in parliamentary diplomacy to tackle enduring and emerging challenges. I welcome Cyprus' active engagement in our complex agenda, underlying that the work of the delegation led by Irena Charlambidis and our third committee rapporteur, Kyriakos Hadjivani, provides leadership in several areas, including defense of human rights, the fight against corruption, and outreach of partners in the southern Mediterranean and Middle East. I visited the Committee of Missing Persons. This is a very important structure which created by both sides, let's say, in Cyprus, and I was impressed to hear from both Turkish and Greek Cypriots impacted by partition of the island about the willingness of both sides to foster reconciliation. My visit also included a visit to the UN offices in Cyprus, where I heard more about ongoing efforts to create the conditions for a comprehensive and durable settlement of this dispute. There I encouraged closer cooperation with the UN to further reinforce the effectiveness of our multilateral efforts to prevent and overcome conflicts. This echoed other efforts to continue to build and reinforce partnerships with other international and regional organizations. In early June, I addressed the spring session of the NATO Parliamentary Assembly to encourage greater transatlantic and pan-European cooperation in light of the OSCE-EPA's upcoming autumn meeting in Marrakesh this October, and discuss in particular with President Moon ways our two parliamentary assemblies can work together to tackle security challenges in the Mediterranean region. Institutional cooperation will also be a topic of conversation when we host the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Liliane Maury-Pasquer, this weekend. Dear friends, before I conclude this little bit lengthy report, let me wish us success in our work this week. Our annual session represents the culmination of month-long efforts to put our collective concerns, highlight success stories and valuable initiatives, and make concrete recommendations to national governments, our parliaments, and the wider international community. At the last Ministerial Council in Milan, you will have noticed the readiness of delegates to include references to PA's work in several texts, and we appreciate it very much. So that's a very normal. Executive side should take in consideration what parliamentarians are offering. I take, of course, this is an acknowledgement of our increased and deepened cooperation with the OSCE Chairmanship and Secretariat, as well as with ambassadors in Vienna, but also a recognition of the high quality and relevance of our joint work. In that same constructive spirit, we would like to continue to debate vigorously during this session and promote our recommendations as we look forward to the Bratislava Ministerial Council. Thank you very much. I will now give the floor for the specific comments or questions on my activities as OSCE Parliamentary Assembly President, and there will be an opportunity, of course, for more general debate on current international issues later in this agenda. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to hear your comments or questions. Peter, please, Peter Osuski, Karen Henriksson, Vladimir, Naima, Gerasimov, Nilsa, please, and Mark Richard. Please, Peter.
Yes. Thank you for the word, Mr. President. Dear appreciated colleagues and friends, being here since 1998, with some interruption, I have, as I can say, lived under different OSCE Parliamentary Assembly presidents, and I have to say that Georg is a very active and very good one. We met on different occasions in the elections, different areas. We met in Bratislava in the, I would say, period before Slovakia became the presiding country of the OSCE. and I have to appreciate his activities in a not easy period of his reign. And as my Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lajčák, did a good job in, I would say, building a roof over the financing of our institution, which, as Doris Barnett mentioned, wasn't an easy task. But knowing the situation behind, I have to say that something similar is done for our organization by Mr. Tsereteli. I would say I am happy with his presidency. I am happy, I hope you will also be, with the Slovak presidency. And I wish our organization and all mentioned people good luck for the future.
Thank you very much, dear Peter, for kind words. And Henriksson, please, Kari, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President, and dear colleagues and friends. I would like to express our gratitude to the President, the Secretary General, and the OSCE staff for the study trip to Svalbard in May. And we are happy for the appointment of Mr. Toril Eidsheim as a special representative on Arctic issues. What we know is that the temperature in Arctic is rising rapidly. This is a true indicator of climate change. The challenges for the Arctic region are geopolitical, environmental, and economic, and also human rights related. They extend across all the dimensions of human security that the OSCE works on. And the Arctic states have a long and well-functioning collaboration in the Arctic Council, now under the chairmanship of Iceland, which we can both learn from and collaborate with. So again, I want to express our thanks to you and the Secretariat, and look forward to have more focus on important Arctic issues, also in the OSCE context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Kari. And again, thank you for a great organization in Norway. So, Vladimir Georgiev and then Naima Lanchi.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of words. I think it was a good report, and there were a lot of things that were mentioned. There were a lot of things that were not mentioned, but we get regular information through newsletters, through emails. We have many documents in this room and all that. So I would just like to compliment to you, Mr. Chairman, about your activities. I've been in this parliamentary assembly for the last 12 years, so ever since 2006. And it's not overstatement that I've never seen a president of the OSCPA who visited as many countries as you have and being present to many events as you have. It needs to be mentioned. You can't say that, but we can, because we are noticing and we are supporting that. So you've been everywhere, and yes, not always back home in our national parliaments, we have the understanding about international presence, international conferences, and all that. And basically, this organization covers almost half of the world. It's not just Europe, but it's North America, it's Central Asia. We have active dialogue with the Mediterranean countries in North Africa. So basically it's half of the world. So it's not easy even physically to cover all that. And the good thing is that we have fruitful events. I think last year's Parliamentary Assembly in Berlin was a success. It was a great event. The whole venue, in the Bundestag was really good. Also, this Luxembourg event is very promising. So just to say these things. One more footnote. Thank you for your engagement and for the whole organization and many other delegations about election observations. I think we have a good success in that. We had a number of how to say, quote, quote, big elections, and they were well covered by the OSCE. There was a good OSCE delegation during the Macedonian presidential elections this year, and it's a thing that our body and our organizations is getting more and more specialized. So let's do more on that, and we can work all of us on that together. We have a growing portfolio, and to meet that growing demand and growing portfolio, we need more and more people active and engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you mentioned, thank you very much for pointing out many things. Of course, I apologize for my lengthy report, but there are facts I could not hide. So there are some things that we didn't put in this, but as you said, we are many tools to inform members what President, Leadership, Secretary General, Treasurer, others, Vice Presidents are doing. And according election observation, I'd like to also thank Sir Marborn for a good leadership and a secretariat during election observation in Macedonia. Thank you very much. Now, Naima Landry, Nilsa Sena, and then Gerasimov and Mark Pritchard. Then I think we will then sum up.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to express our gratitude to you for your work as President of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, also to the Secretariat. You are, as a President of the Assembly, you have shown a strong guidance in the Assembly, but also in the Standing Committee. And for the last year and a half, we have known you also as a very active president, as shown also in the report. You have been representing the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly at different occasions in different countries. Also, you have done a lot of field visits. Thank you also for motivating not only the staff of OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, but also the chairpersons and the rapporteurs of the different committees and ad hoc working groups. I think it's very important. And finally, I think also, and we would also, everything would agree with me, I think, for the good work you did, also with the good cooperation with the OSCE-related bodies, such as ODIHR, but also with a lot of external organizations. And I wish you a lot of success. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for leadership and Migration Committee with all our colleagues there. Nilsa Sena, and then Artur Gerasimov.
Thank you very much, dear President, dear distinguished colleagues. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Tsereteli for very active work as a President of PA and also the Secretariat. I think both your work and also the media strategy flag up all the PA in many occasions. And I want to stress also the strict relationship between the PA and the Thomas Kreminger, Secretary General, and OSCE governmental side. I think that's an important point because now we have a big open window between the PA and the OSCE. And I must stress also, as a chair of the second committee, I dedicated some of last year's to many topics, including greening economies, decarbonation of economies, electrification of energy use, and climate change. And in this particular case, climate change, we had big support of our president and a big step with a fantastic trip to study the Arctic conditions, and I want to thank also to Norwegian organization, fantastic organization also, and stress the importance of this issue be present in all committees. I think we all know and we all realize that the planet is getting warmer, wetter, wilder, and we need definitely to find a path, a common path, to work together on this issue. This is not a specific topic on second dimension, because this issue, it will reflect directly on the other two, on the first dimension, on security level, and definitely on human area also. So I think we stressed it very well, and the President put all his energy on this issue also. And I'll thank you for that and for all the climate diplomacy that is really necessary also. Thank you.
Thank you. Climate diplomacy is really needed. Thank you very much, Nilsa. And now Artur Gerasimov. And then last speaker will be for the session, Mark Pritchard. Please, Artur, and then Mark. And
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
See any other.
First of all, I want to say thank you and join my colleagues for your, let's say, active activities, because what we see during the last years that the visibility and the leadership of the Parliamentary Assembly of the EC became much more visible and effective. And also, I want to say special thank you for your visit to the front line in Ukraine, because you, Andreas Notella, all the other members of the delegations remember that we visited it during the shellings, and it was not safe. And also, I want to mention that during the last years, we see that activity of the committees of the Assembly towards Ukraine became much more let's say active, especially third committee chaired by our Swiss colleagues. So thank you very much for these things, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Arthur. You are right. So it was in the beginning of this mandate in Berlin. I told you it was a collective wish to prioritize Ukraine, and if you count how many times not only President but also our third committee and some other our leaders been in Ukraine, it really makes really sense, and thank you very much for supporting our activities there, especially at the front line, as you mentioned. And now Mark Pritchard, our special representative on Balkans and the head of British delegation. Please, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may also, I'd like to put on record my thanks to the Secretary General. I wasn't able to do that earlier. My congratulations on behalf of the UK delegation for his re-election. And you mentioned Special Representative for Southeast Europe, and clearly that's a busy role, but I couldn't do it without the excellent support of Ambassador Nutelli and Francesco and other members of the OSCE headquarters staff, both in Copenhagen and Vienna. So I'd like to put on record my thanks at this point. Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to say that the report is first class. It's an excellent annual report, and there has been a lot of travel, but it's been travel with purpose. And it was Dr. David Livingstone, a famous English explorer, who said, if you travel with purpose. And so you've certainly traveled with purpose, and I think that's probably a good motto for us all as parliamentarians with busy schedules. But I'd like to thank you, sir, most of all for your decisive leadership, your attention to detail, your wisdom, your accessibility, but perhaps most of all, your good humour. Because, just speaking personally, I don't think any of us can survive in politics without some good humour, despite the fact that we are often discussing serious subjects. So in support, again, of your presidency, your hard work and industry, I recognise and salute. And on behalf of the UK delegation, thank you, sir, for what you do.
Thank you very much. I don't know what to say, because there were words which I appreciate very much and very much inspired. Thank you again, because what I did as a president last year, or even a little bit maybe before, when I became acting president for a few months, I did it only with the great support of all of you. We have opponents here, of course. There are colleagues we couldn't disagree with, never could agree on certain points, but we try to promote, and myself as the president of this organization promote, very constructive and ever more friendly relations. And I'm very much thankful to all of you, and of course Secretariat, who are also fostering that, let's say, phenomenon and value in our assembly. Thank you very much again, and then we will let's say, continue this discussion if there are any other points on international issues, and we have already the speakers for next session. Thanks a lot. Now, report of newly re-elected Secretary General, Roberto Montella, and as he promised, he will make a little bit longer this time, but we have sufficient time to listen to each other and also to put forward questions if it's necessary. Roberto, again, congratulations, and the floor is yours. Please, you can share with your thoughts now and your work.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It will not be too long, and don't scare our members. I just want to thank you, Mr. President. I would like to again thank all the members of the Standing Committee for your support. Especially, I would like to thank our hosts, Luxembourg. Thank you very much for the great job in hosting us here. Probably members have not seen all of the premises that are at our disposals. Trust me, it's overwhelming what you will see during these days and the facilities that the authorities here have put at our disposal. So thank you very much. I know you have a very small staff in the Luxembourg Parliament, but you've done a great job. So thank you very much for that. Since we last met in Vienna, we've had a lot of activities, a lot of elections. You've mentioned those in Moldova, in Ukraine, North Macedonia, and Kazakhstan. New elections are upcoming towards the end of the year. We are also trying to be creative and think of places where we normally do not observe. We will maybe consider going to some countries in September or October where we normally do not observe elections. We've had a very active president. All the remarks so far have underlined it. Mr. President, you have been very, very active. You've been present on all the main political issues of the OSCE agenda. We are very grateful for that. We have to keep a very busy agenda because the OSCE region requires this type of activities. Doris, I would like to thank you very much for the budget, for the work that you've done on the budget. Now, I would like to break immediately the elephant in the room here, of course, because we have the incumbent president who's running again for election, and the treasurer who is running for the candidation for the presidential post. She said in her remarks, I'm not running against George, but I'm running for George's position. This actually reflects what I said before about the atmosphere in this assembly. So people do not run against each other, but they run for some position, for some principles. So just to clarify, because many members were wondering whether the translation was clear of what Doris said. So we will have a presidential race on the 7th of July and 8th of July. And as I want to, again, break the elephant in the room immediately, of course, the Secretariat here is at the service of all the Assembly. The Secretariat doesn't take any positions, doesn't support one or the other candidate. But one thing has to be said, Mr. President, you've been extremely active. Under your leadership, as many other members have mentioned, we have reached the highest level of visibility of this assembly, and the relations that now we enjoy with the governmental side is at the highest level ever. So I do not want to be in a position not to recognize the self-evident by being too careful in saying if I say good things, this will be interpreted in one way, or if I say too many good things about Leinsweiler seminars and all the silent diplomacy that Doris has done in Germany will be considered as we are leaning on one side or the other. The Secretariat, as I said once in Tbilisi when there was a race between President Mouton and George Tsereteli at that time, in Italian I said non è né a destra né a sinistra, in alto. So we are au-dessus de la mêlée, would say the French. So we are on neither side, but we of course recognize the great work that both candidates have done. Now, as the annual session is also a moment of reflection, I would like to take a moment, a step backwards from all the great activities that we've done and from these very frenetic activities. And I will say more of this in the plenary on the last day. But when we were in Svalbard, many people have mentioned the visit in Svalbard in the high north and looking at the impact of climate change, I started to reflect about what is the added value of this assembly. We here talk about issues like climate change, about migration, terrorism, solution of conflict, mediation. And for all these issues, normally, these are issues that require a political capital and like a political thinking that normally would go beyond the electoral cycle. Now, many members of this assembly come in this midst. Of course, in the country, they have to look at the electoral cycle. So they have to look at the next election and how a policy or how a proposal will impact on my own election at the next election. In this parliamentary assembly, the advantage that you have is that you don't have to look at the next electoral cycle back at home. You can come in this assembly and look at these kind of issues, migration, fight against terrorism, climate change, also maybe with a broader perspective, with a perspective that allows you to do some thinking on how these issues can be dealt 50 years from now. Now, I know for any politician back at home, you never think of 15 years from now, because what you want to make sure is that your position is appreciated by your voters because you have an election next year or the day after or soon. So you have to, of course, focus your message on how it better services the possibility for you to be re-elected. But in this assembly, there is not that. So I would really urge members, and I will make this appeal more in the plenary on Monday, to really try to use this assembly, come with the spirit, beside the spirit that we have here of being, of course, very cooperative with each other, but also with the spirit of thinking of these kind of issues in a longer-term perspective and make proposals that can service better the community you represent in the longer term. Of course, we've had sad news. The President has mentioned. I would like to also pay respect to Mark Nutt from the Estonian delegation and Nikolai Kovalov from the Russian Federation delegation. We've lost two important members of this assembly who contributed a lot. Unfortunately, this is life, but we are with their families and with the respective delegations. Another point that I would like to make is the support that I've received, I underlined, is the support to myself, but of course it's also a sign of respect for the teamwork that this small international secretariat delivers to you. I have made it a principle of my way of leading the secretariat, which is a very collegial way. You can see, you can talk to my colleagues will feel free to, of course, engage and make decisions, but of course I take at the end of the day the full responsibility. But I think there is a lot of value in this kind of collegiality in the way we work, because there are people here with more experience than I have. I have arrived in the Parliamentary Assembly 10 years ago. The people have been here for 15, 20 years who can also contribute with their knowledge in giving us also the perspective of time and allowing us to make better decisions. You've seen some of the changes that we've made, a new media strategy, a new application. I will not go too much into these details, but you've seen that our meetings now are also supported by the new technologies that make you find our documents and make your information about meetings a little bit more faster. I'd like to thank the participants. You've had the highest level of participation in the last meetings that we've ever had. This time we have a record high participation from the US delegation. Many members thought when I first took this position, who was occupied by an American, whether that this assembly would survive that strong American leader, because they said, look, if the Americans don't engage in an assembly where there are Americans and Russians, then there is no point in having this assembly. But the testimony that the American delegation has demonstrated in coming forth with big numbers reinforces, I think, the message that you really believe in what we do in this assembly and you appreciate the work that we do. I don't have many more points, Mr. President, just to say that the next year, now that you have given me a strong mandate that allows me also to look at the Secretariat for the incoming years, we'll see also the departure of some members. By 2020, we will have Ambassador Notelle, who will leave the position of Special Representative at the end of 2020, and Semyon Jakaya, Deputy Secretary General, will leave the Secretariat at the end of this year. So next year, we will have to also look into a new Deputy Secretary General and a new ambassador in Vienna. So it will be also a year of reflection and finding the right candidates for these important positions. And of course, also on these, I will always seek the advice of the Bureau and the leadership of the Assembly. With that, if you have any questions, again, my thanks for your support. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, dear Roberto, for your very interesting and and I would say useful comments, and also outlining some of your plans for future. And I think we'll appreciate work again. It was very well reflected in the voting. And with you, I'd like to congratulate also all our staff here. In Copenhagen office, led by you, and Vienna office led by Andreas Nutelle, and all of them sitting here around us, behind or here at the table for their great job, great work, and support all our activities. And what Roberto told when he was elected, that Secretariat will be really serve parliamentarians' activities and not interfere in the affairs or issues which are not necessary. So he's keeping word, and all the Secretariat is great, let's say, assistant of all of you, all the delegations and the leadership of the Parliamentary Assembly in our endeavors. Thank you very much again. Now we are moving to the review of current international political issues. That is number 7 in our agenda. And we have few speakers already, but please raise your hands if anybody wants to say something in addition. First will be our good friend Ivan Brajovic, President of Parliament of Montenegro. He is quite often at our meetings. We appreciate that. And floor is yours. Okay.
Hvala vam, predsjedniče Cereteli, generalni sekretar Montela, drage kolege. Posebno mi zadovoljstvo predstavlja učešće na zasjedanju Parlamentarne skupštine OEBS-a, jer je ova organizacija dokazala iskrenu podršku u rješavanju različitih izazova i sprovođenju višegodišnjih zahtjevnih reformi zemljama jugoistočnog dijela Evrope. Generalni sekretar Montela je još od kraja 90. godina prisutan u našem regionu, a i dalje svojim predanim radom jača ulogu i značaj ove organizacije među zemljama članicama. U ime Skupštine Crne Gore na tome mu zahvaljujem i čestitam mu na reizboru. Uvjeren sam da ste vi, izabrani predstavnici građana 57 država, od kojih se 28 nalazi u Europskoj uniji, upoznati sa napretkom koji je naš region postigao. Međutim, želio bih da iskoristim priliku da vam skrenem pažnju da i pored dobrih rezultata koje postižemo, ostalo još dosta otvorenih pitanja i problema. Ukoliko zaista želimo stabilnu, mirnu i prosperitetnu Evropu, onda proces proširenja mora biti odlučnije nastavljen, dok i preostale države jugoistoka Evrope ne budu dio Evropske zajednice. Iako se Evropska unija suočava sa unutrašnjim izazovima, neophodno je da pruži podršku i podstrek nastavku reformi i donošenju važnih odluka za naše države, kao i da pokaže izvjesnost procesa proširenja. Stabilnost, uspjeh i prosperitet Evropske unije zavisi od nas sa Zapadnog Balkana. Crna Gora je posvećenošću reformama jasno dokazala da je dio evropskog sistema vrijednosti. Ostvareni rezultati, liderstvo u integracionom procesu, relaksiraju nas priče o rokovima za članstvo. Nije potrebno da vam posebno objašnjavam odakle smo krenuli prije 13 godina i kakve smo sve izazove savladali, jer su Parlamentarna skupština OEBS-a i OEBS sa nama prošli cijeli taj put. Zato želimo da naši građani osjete jasnu evropsku perspektivu, da vidimo da je ovaj proces zasnovan na principu regate, kredibilan. Primjer smo države koja je napravila velike rezultate u jačanju institucija i vladavini prava. Države koja baštini različitosti, ima dobre odnose sa svim susjedima, posebnu pažnju posvećuje regionalnoj saradnji i svojom vanjskom politikom dokazuje evropsku dosljednost. Crna Gora predstavlja dodatu vrijednost i ubijeđen sam da će svojim posebnostima i znamenitostima samo obogatiti zajednicu evropskih naroda. Neupitna je volja vlasti u Crnoj Gori da se učine još snažniji reformski iskoraci i svjesni smo očekivanja prije svega crnogorskih građana. Ta očekivanja su u potpunosti razumljiva, jer su oni ti koji u kontinuitetu, povjerenjem koje ukazuju aktuelnoj parlamentarnoj većini, oni koji daju legitimitet svemu što radimo. Upravo njima dugujemo izvjesnu budućnost građana Europske unije. Na kraju, ponovit ću da Crna Gora, članica NATO saveza, nema dilema da će i naredni prioritetni spoljnopolitički zadatak, a to je članstvo u Europskoj uniji, uspješno realizovati. Vjerujem da će se vaša podrška nastaviti, da ćete prepoznati i uvažiti sve naše specifičnosti kako bi Crna Gora bila prva sljedeća članica Europske unije. Zahvaljujem domaćinima na srdačnoj dobrodošlici i dobroj organizaciji zasjedanja. Hvala vam.
Thank you very much, dear Ivan, dear speaker, and we wish all the best to Montenegro on its way to Europe. You are doing a great job, and as you said, Parliamentary Assembly will assist with all our, let's say, instruments and keys this process. Thank you very much again for being with us. Next speaker, Margaret Kennan-Nellen from Switzerland and head of Third Committee, one of the most active members of our Assembly, and we appreciate all your efforts, dear Margaret, or your committee. Please, the floor is yours. Of course, with your colleagues, Mike Link and Kyriakos and others. Please, Margaret Kennan-Nellen.
Besten Dank, sehr geehrter Herr Präsident, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen. Ich möchte vorerst unseren luxemburgischen Gastgeberinnen und Gastgebern ganz herzlich danken für diesen wunderschönen Tagungsort, und ich freue mich für uns alle, mit euch diese Tagung zu bestreiten. Ich darf Ihnen heute berichten über die Mission, welche unser dritter ständiger Ausschuss für Demokratie, Menschenrechte und humanitäre Fragen im letzten halben Jahr in der Ukraine vornehmen konnte. Ich wurde als Präsidentin des dritten Ausschusses begleitet durch Kyriakos Hadjidiani, Rapporteur des dritten ständigen Ausschusses, und wir wurden begleitet vom Sekretariat durch Herrn Marc Carrier, Vizedirektor des OSZE-PV Liaison-Büros in Wien. Ich werde jetzt meinen Kurzbericht in Französisch und Englisch abstatten. Sie finden auf den Tischen draußen die englische Version des Berichts ausgedruckt. Die russische Version des Berichts sollte heute Abend oder morgen früh für die Empfehlungen vorhanden sein. Donc, nous avons pu, rapporteur de commission, M. Kyriakos Hadjidiani et moi-même, nous rendre dans l'est de l'Ukraine à plusieurs reprises depuis la fin de l'année 2018. Tout d'abord, en décembre dernier, dans la région de Dnipro et de Mariupol, puis cette année à Kramatorsk et Stanitsa Luhanska notamment. Notre but était de rassembler des éléments factuels sur la situation des droits humains et sur les conséquences humanitaires de la guerre en cours sur les populations de l'Est de l'Ukraine. Notre mission a été explicitement préconisée dans le rapport du voyage présidentiel guidé par notre président Tsereteli en mai 2018, et elle a également été suggérée par l'article 120 de la Déclaration de Berlin. Et pour le dire clairement, il ne s'agissait pas d'une mission politique. Malheureusement, il n'a pas été possible d'obtenir l'autorisation nécessaire des autorités ukrainiennes à des territoires non contrôlés par le gouvernement. Ce seul fait a limité la portée de notre mission, et nous exprimons l'espoir que notre Assemblée sera bientôt en mesure d'évaluer la situation des droits de l'homme à Donetsk et à Luhansk. Sans cela, nous devons continuer à nous appuyer sur des informations de seconde main, et une visualisation complète de la situation humanitaire et des droits de l'homme des deux côtés de la ligne de contact est ainsi impossible. Chers collègues, le constat que nous avons fait et qui est contenu dans le rapport est dramatique. Une personne continue de mourir en moyenne chaque jour en victime de cette guerre se déroulant sous nos yeux, au cœur de l'Europe, à seulement 3 heures de vol du Luxembourg. Je me permets de citer 2 exemples des derniers rapports de notre mission SMM que vous pouvez lire tous les soirs en ligne. On 2nd of July, a woman, 60 to 70 years old, was injured in Donetsk city. She told the SMM that she had sustained a cut to her wrist by glass debris when the windows of her house were shattered by explosions in the early morning hours of June 2028. 2 men were injured in Vezele and near Pervomaisk from shelling and gunfire. On 25 June, medical staff at the hospital in Pervomaisk told the SMM that a man of 18 years had been admitted late in the evening on June 24 with a bullet wound in his abdomen. On 2nd of July, in Zolote, Mikhailivka, non-government controlled, 50 kilometers west of Luhansk, the parents of the man showed the SMM the scooter of this young man with a bullet hole in its metal fairing. Chers et chers collègues, le décompte macabre des victimes ne suffit pas à refléter la réalité de la vie quotidienne des populations vivant au plus près des tirs et des champs des mines. Nous avons rencontré les personnes déplacées, nous nous sommes rendus dans des hôpitaux au chevet des victimes de ces tirs incessants, nous avons été à la rencontre des franges les plus délaissées de la société, les prisonniers qui venaient d'être transférés depuis les territoires non contrôlés. Nous avons parlé avec la société civile et avec les habitants de ces villages qui jouxtent la ligne de front et qui sont forcés de se déplacer en évitant les champs de mines et les munitions non explosées qui sont omniprésentes. Finalement, et j'insisterai là-dessus, vous voyez la photo du point de passage de Stanica Luhanska. Nous l'avons traversé, ce pont qui se trouve effondré, et nous avons fait le constat étouffant, tout comme la chaleur et l'ambiance qui y règnent, que faire subir ce genre de traitement à des êtres humains s'apparente à de la torture pure et simple. Les personnes doivent parcourir plus d'1 kilomètre à pied sous la chaleur en été et sous le gel en hiver. C'est pourquoi dans le rapport, nous faisons entre autres les recommandations urgentes suivantes. Vous trouverez la liste entière dans le rapport. A sustained ceasefire in eastern Ukraine, as repeatedly committed by the sides, is urgently needed for the sake of the safety of civilians, especially children, as well as military personnel. Ensuring the safety of workers operating civilian infrastructures, such as the Donetsk water filtration station, is of paramount importance. Disengagement under the Minsk agreements, as negotiated since 2016, 3 years ago, in the framework of the Trilateral Contact Group, is to be fully implemented. The first very small step recently taken inside the Stanica Luhanska disengagement area of 2.2 square kilometers should lead to a rapid improvement of these crossing conditions at the entry-exit checkpoint, and must be immediately followed by the urgent repair of the destroyed bridge section and by the disengagement along the contact line. Large-scale disengagement must now commence according to the commitments made by the sides. The picture you see here was taken by our mission from the patrol, SMM patrol of Saturday, 1st of June, and I quote here too the SMM daily brief of June 2nd, 2019, quote, in violation of withdrawal lines in government-controlled areas, 1st of June, the SMM saw at least 10 tanks, 3 Taud howitzers, and an anti-tank guided missile system at the train station in Rublicine, 84 kilometers northwest of Luhansk. End of quote. This is the picture that we were able to take while on our mission between Kramatorsk and Stanica Luhanska at the train station of Rubicne. Humanitarian demining is key as Ukraine is one of the most mined countries in the world, with nearly 2,000 landmine casualties in eastern Ukraine since 2014. In addition to violating international humanitarian law, namely the Ottawa Convention, the use of anti-personnel mines maims and kills civilians in the conflict areas, kills military personnel, and hinders economic recovery and the future development of these areas. All sides have agreed a long time ago to remove all landmines in the ground and not to place any new ones. The contrary has happened. It is therefore time to implement this key element of Minsk agreements with no further delay. A sustainable ceasefire would be a prerequisite for this. There is urgent need to delink the IDP status, internally displaced persons, to the obtention of social benefits. Both have been artificially linked, and this creates a discrimination of internally displaced persons and discriminates populations living in non-government controlled areas who must seek IDP status even if they have not moved since the beginning of the conflict and who are forced to pass over this Stanica Luhanska bridge by foot every 60 days in order to be able to touch only 50 euro per day if it's a 90-year-old, in order to get 50 euro a month, for instance, if they are a 90-year-old woman having worked all her life and living in Donetsk or in Luhansk. Last picture, please. This is in the hospital of Dnipropetrovsk, which does 90% of neurosurgery. It's all in the heads, and 10% of abdomen surgery. I will end on this, Mr. President. While a comprehensive solution is long overdue after the commitments made in the Minsk agreements signed by all sides, full compliance by all with international humanitarian law is of crucial importance. Humanitarian measures must be pursued to improve the lives of the millions of people affected by this war. I can only conclude by saying, stop this war.
Thank you. Dear Margaret, I think we'll appreciate a very detailed information that you provided. It was mentioned by our Ukrainian colleagues, I myself also been there with a big group, and we've been witness to all the sufferings that happening in that part of Ukraine. And of course, we have to build on what you said and then plan all the activities according one task, to fulfill and to foster for the realization of Minsk agreements. And, and I think that was reflected many times also in our resolution in this Assembly. Just a second. Okay, we'll give you the floor, Mrs. Dolstoy, but there's a sequence of speakers, and then you can speak. Now it will be Margareta Sederfeld from Sweden, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will present a short, what shall I say, conclusion of my work as a rapporteur on the murder of Mr. Boris Nemtsov. And I was appointed as rapporteur in Vienna at the winter meeting this year, so it haven't been so many months I have done the work so far, and my yes, and my goal is to present the final report this next year at the summer meeting. On the basis of the I don't know, yes it works, are the principles of democracy and rule of law that all OSCE participating states have committed to as a part of the third dimension of security. Democracy requires that opposition politicians and activists are able to act without fear. When politicians and activists are attacked, an impartial and thorough investigation must be conducted. This is to achieve justice for the victim, but also to establish how such an attack was possible. And of course, it's also important for the democracy overall and the civil society. The assassination of Boris Nemtsov in 2015 has provoked widespread and continuing attention, in part because of Mr. Nemtsov's own merits. He was elected to the Yaroslav Regional Duma in 2013, and he was also co-chairman for the leading opposition party before, and his party won a lot of seats in the election 2013. He has also been a minister in a former government. Then I would like to continue with, there have been a number of issues concerning the investigation into Mr. Nemtsov's murder, and those indicate that there are a process of findings those responsible and ensuring the future safety of oppositional politicians and activists cannot be guaranteed at the national level in Russia. The critics that have been mentioned when it comes to the Mr. Nemtsov murder is as follows: an incomplete investigation leading to a criminal case without numerous inconsistencies, and a judicial process in which the defendants were subject to torture and denied a fair trial, and which failed to provide justice for the victim. An unclear role of the security service in the investigation. No answers as to who ordered the assassination of Boris Nemtsov and why. And this has raised suspicions that certain elements in the case, particularly a potential political motive and involvement of high-ranking officials, was intentionally excluded. It had also led to alternative theories of who the assassination was executed. And I would like to stress that this is a result that I have found in documents from United Nations bodies. I have also read and taken part in the European Court of Human Rights documents, documents from the US Senate and Congress. And There have also been a special representative or rapporteur from the Parliament Assembly of the Council of Europe, Mr. Tsingeris. So this is findings from the reports I have read. And I would also like to mention that my capacity as rapporteur of the OSCE EPA is not to make a criminal investigation, or it's not to determine the guilt of the defendants. But what I will do is to search for what have been done and make a conclusion out of this. And I will continue my work and as I said, and present the result for 2020. And for those who are interested and want to hear more, there is a side event on Sunday the 7th, 1:30 to 3 p.m. And Mr. Tsingeris from the Council of Europe will take part in this side event also. And I see this is a very important issue for democracy. And I hope I have more to say next time. What I have done so far is to read the documents and make conclusion out of them. And I would also like to say thank you for all of those people who have put their efforts in the research on what have happened and make it possible for the rest of the world to follow the case and the murder of Mr. Nemtsov. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Margaret, for your, let's say, this preliminary report. And as you said, there will be another one maybe later on. Now we have another speaker under this topic, on this part of our agenda, Bahar Muradova from Azerbaijan, followed by...
Спасибо, уважаемый господин председатель, дорогие друзья. Тема нашей сегодняшней сессии является очень важной. Несомненно, достижение ЦУР – очень сложная задача, и требует она многостороннего подхода и участия всех, ради того, чтобы никто не остался в стороне. Устойчивое развитие является условием мира, стабильности, процветания, демократии и защиты прав человека. Заседая здесь, в Люксембурге, мы должны сосредоточить наше внимание на проблемах, которые волнуют нас и наше общество. Как парламентская организация мы должны определить свое место в содействии созданию справедливого, миролюбивого, лишенного страха, насилия и социальных барьеров, ликвидацию бедности к 30 году, принятию срочных действий по причине изменения климата, решить вопрос неравенства, защитить планету от пагубного воздействия, защитить человеческие жизни и достоинства. Наша ежегодная сессия должна принимать важные решения в результате обсуждений, которые позволят нам в долгосрочной основе определить наше участие на национальном и глобальном уровне. Национальные парламенты и международные организации играют важнейшую роль в содействии целей устойчивого развития в интересах безопасности. Есть очень много рычагов действий, посредством которых мы можем способствовать достижению мира и диалога. Мы с вами не раз подчеркивали, что диалог является предпосылкой предотвращения насильственного экстремизма, массовой миграции и конфликтов разного рода. Для содействия построению мирных и инклюзивных обществ необходимо искоренить убийства и насилие мирных граждан, в первую очередь детей. Нарушение прав людей в результате агрессии продолжает наблюдаться во многих странах региона ОБСЕ. Безнаказанность и отсутствие данных серьезно усугубляет проблему. Противодействие терроризму, коррупции и финансированию терроризма остается ключевой темой нашей повестки дня в области безопасности. Развитие цифровых технологий в регионе и многое другое порождает много новых проблем, которые нам необходимо решить. Поэтому мы должны еще больше усилить и активизировать нашу работу, так как международное сотрудничество способствует значительному расширению возможностей и средств в области защиты прав человека. Как вы знаете, 16 и 17 цели в ряду непрерывного развития, охватывающие содействие миролюбивым и открытым обществам, наряду с обеспечением для всех справедливости, требует создания широкого, эффективного и ответственного участия на всех уровнях. Для этого, помимо использования уже имеющихся, целесообразно создавать новые международные площадки, направленные на более конкретное и тесное взаимодействие для сотрудничества и безопасности. Примером этому могут служить созданные недавно по инициативе Азербайджана под зонтом Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ такие успешные площадки, как группа поддержки «Шелкового пути» и Бакинская парламентская платформа. Именно подобные инициативы в национальном, региональном и глобальном масштабах будут способствовать расширению роли парламентариев в достижении целей повестки 30 года. Уважаемый господин Мантелло, я поздравляю вас с переизбранием и хочу поблагодарить за вашу деятельность в целом за отчетный период. Уважаемый господин Церетели, хочу поблагодарить вас за вашу всеобъемлющую деятельность, которую вы в очередной раз представили нам сегодня. И она направлена, в частности, на внесение парламентского вклада в создание мира и безопасности в регионе. Хотелось бы особо выделить ваше недавнее участие на Бакинской конференции по региональному сотрудничеству и безопасности, где парламентские лидеры от Азербайджана, Германии и Турции сошлись для обсуждения насущных проблем и вызовов безопасности региона. Мы уверены, что начавшаяся под эгидой Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ миротворческая платформа, несущая в себе цели парламентского содействия региональной безопасности, в ближайшем будущем привлечет еще больше парламентариев из разных стран, стремящихся использовать все рычаги парламентской дипломатии во благо мира, безопасности и устойчивого развития. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much, dear Bahar, and all your peaceful initiatives. And I think we'll do much more for South Caucasus peace building and confidence building in coming months. So now I'd like to ask our Vice President, Senator Roger Wicker, for his intervention. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And let me say what a distinct honor it is for me to be back here with so many of our European friends and to be have the honor of being head of the American delegation. It happens that this committee meeting is occurring on American Independence Day. And to those of you who have acknowledged that in either publicly or in conversations with me, I very much appreciate that. As the distinguished Secretary General mentioned during his remarks, the size of our delegation for this Parliamentary Assembly is a clear demonstration of the importance that the Americans place on this institution. So it's wonderful to be here and wonderful to be part of the discussions that will take place over the next few days. What I propose to do at this moment is simply to offer a synopsis of the travels of our American delegation on the way to Luxembourg this week. The delegation who traveled with me first visited Northern Ireland, where we had the opportunity to understand a bit better both the progress received in the region and also the fault lines that continue to divide neighbors there for more than 20 years after the conclusion of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. We also discussed the implications of a term that surprisingly has not been uttered yet this morning, but has certainly gripped the entire of Europe, and that is the term Brexit. We talked about the implications for the United Kingdom, for Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, particularly with regard to customs and border implications. And we continued that discussion during a two-day visit with government officials in London. Our final stop prior to coming here was in Gdansk, Poland, and I do believe it's the first American parliamentary delegation ever to visit this seaport town on the Baltic Sea. In that historic city, my colleagues, with the support of the government of Poland, we did something that has never before been done in the 43-year history of the U.S. Helsinki Commission as our representation in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. We convened a field hearing of our American Commission outside the borders of the United States, there in Gdansk. This hearing was focused on the security of the Baltic region. I'm happy to report that a number of very senior officials from Baltic Sea countries participated in our event. In addition to the Minister of Defense of Lithuania, we had senior officials from Estonia, Sweden, Finland, and of course from our host in Poland. We also heard assessments of regional security from Deputy Commander of the United States European Command and our Deputy Permanent Representative to NATO. We heard a remarkable consensus among the panelists at this public event. Proceedings were live streamed on the internet, and the video is available to any of you and to all of you on our website if anyone wishes to review the proceedings. In short, our panelists agreed that the overall security picture in the Baltic Sea region has degraded significantly in recent years as a result of the Kremlin's willingness to change borders by force, contravene its arms control and political commitments, and conduct unsafe and professional actions in the airspace and waters nearby. As we met less than 80 miles from the Russian border, we heard firsthand from our Baltic Sea friends the extent to which attempts to stoke division and instability abroad are felt every day by our friends in this region. On the other hand, the good news is that our panelists agreed that the response by NATO and the United States to this challenge has been appropriate, stabilizing, and measured, and I might add, and consistent with every principle of the OSCE final act. Let me close by reiterating what I've said on the occasion of this hearing and what I've often said. Under no circumstances can we be divided from our friends and allies, whether it be in the Baltic Sea or anywhere else. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Wicker, dear Vice President, for your information, and we appreciate that this very important and a sizable delegation of U.S. here in Luxembourg, and you are making a great contribution to our work. So, next speaker will be head of delegation from Armenia. Please.
Thank you. Dear Mr. President, dear Secretary General, dear colleagues. At the outset, I wish to thank our distinguished host, the Chamber of Deputies of Luxembourg, and the entire delegation of Luxembourg led by Eugene Berger, for the excellent organization of the annual session of Parliamentary Assembly and extended outstanding hospitality. I thank President Tsereteli for his report, and I would like to refer to some events and initiatives with his participation. First of all, I thank President Tsereteli for paying a visit to Armenia. I agree with your assessment that visits of the PA President to the region testify continued attention and engagement of the Parliamentary Assembly in South Caucasus. In the conditions of continued deterioration of OSCE's presence in the region, such engagement gains even more importance in terms of support to democracy, human rights, and rule of law. Another important mechanism for such engagement is participation in election observation. Having said this, I would like to commend active participation of the PA delegation led by Ms. Nahima Lanjuri and Mr. Petr Osuski. An observation of early parliamentary elections in Armenia in December last year is a point to the case. We certainly acknowledge potential of parliamentary diplomacy in advancing peace in the region. Our delegation took active part in Leitweiler seminar and shared its views in that regard. We believe the initiatives to imply parliamentary diplomacy tools can have added value if discussions organized with parties to the conflict are of inclusive nature, involving all elected representatives of people. In this context, I wish to recall the parliamentarians of Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan and Armenia played an essential role in setting necessary conditions for ceasefire by concluding Bishkek Protocol in May 1994. 25th anniversary of conclusion of Bishkek Protocol opens an opportunity for parties to the conflict to recommit themselves to exclusively peaceful settlement of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Therefore, setting up of platforms which serve to advance certain conflict narratives rather than support genuine and inclusive dialogue across dividing lines cannot be helpful to achieve the task of promoting peace in the region. We expect that Parliamentary Assembly will support the recent positive developments in the Nagorno-Karabakh peace process and the efforts of the OSCE Minsk Group co-chairs countries, France, Russia, and the United States. In the context of the OSCE engagement in the region, I would like to touch upon the South Caucasus Media Conference, organized on an annual basis by the representative on the freedom of media. This event has untapped confidence-building potential. We firmly believe that upholding freedom of expression and freedom of media and ensuring safety of journalists, including in conflict situations, are key prerequisites to tackle such challenges as fake news and dissemination of hate speech targeting ethnic and religious groups in media. Regrettably, continuous deepening of gap between countries of the region in upholding the commitments in the field of freedom of expression affects dialogue and confidence building between media in the region. We appreciate continued attention of the PA to the OSCE institutions, including ODIHR and active participation of the Parliamentary Assembly members and President Tsereteli himself in the Human Dimension Implementation meeting. We expect that the PA will send a strong message of support of continued active and unhindered participation of civil society in the HDIM and necessity to uphold human rights and fundamental freedoms of all people in the entire OSCE area, including those residing in conflict areas without any distinction. On a final note, I would like to express my hope that the Parliamentary Assembly will contribute to further democratic transformation in the region, strengthening of democratic institutions and better protection of human rights as key preconditions for advancing peace in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very constructive, let's say, remarks. And as I said, already announced, so my visit very soon will be in Yerevan and will be discussed, thoroughly all the issues, and all the Assembly, I think, will be much more active in South Caucasus in coming period. Now we have a head of Russian delegation, and this debate will be concluded by Vice President Peter Bonis.
Спасибо большое, господин председатель. Я постараюсь быть кратким, чтобы не задерживать всех коллег. Я хочу поблагодарить Маргарет за ее блестящий доклад по ситуации на востоке Украины. Мне очень жаль, что ей не удалось побывать с другой стороны конфликта. Там тоже гибнут люди, тоже лежат в больницах в результате обстрелов артиллерии со стороны киевских властей. Все-таки, уважаемые коллеги, мы свидетели войны властей Украины с собственным народом, с частью своей территории, которая не согласилась с результатами государственного переворота, произошедшего в 2014 году. Что касается гуманитарной ситуации, то она действительно ужасна, и это тоже результат действия киевских властей. Лицемерно заявляя здесь о российской агрессии, они осуществляют полную блокаду части своих территорий, где проживают их граждане, и помимо бомбардировок и регулярных обстрелов, они полностью блокируют доставку медикаментов и гуманитарных грузов. Мост, который вы видели на фотографии, и о котором Маргарет говорила, он был разбомблен авиации Вооруженных сил Украины, которая применила авиацию против своих граждан. Поэтому я прошу вас учитывать все эти обстоятельства, когда речь идет об этом тяжелейшем конфликте в соседней с нами стране. Что касается слов некоторых коллег о деградации ситуации с безопасностью, да, она деградировала. Но это произошло не по инициативе России, а в связи с тем, что некоторые страны не выполнили своих обязательств о неразмещении баз НАТО у границ нашей страны. Россия эти действия без ответа не оставит. Хочу также сказать, что очень важен диалог с теми частями стран, которые не готовы продолжать жить в этих государствах. Киев по-прежнему категорически отказывается от диалога с Донбассом и Луганском, так же как Тбилиси не ведет прямого диалога с Южной Осетией и Абхазией. И пока такого диалога не будет, бесполезно все усилия по налаживанию и разрешению этих конфликтов. Спасибо большое.
So, next speaker, please, Lord Bonus, and then very short comment.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. President, for the floor, and my thanks also to our hosts in Luxembourg, and as can I say, as a member from the United Kingdom, what a pleasure it is to be in the European Quarter, and long may I be entitled to be here. I want to raise two matters. You raised the question of Albania in your report, Mr. President, and I'm sorry that I haven't had the opportunity of speaking to the Albanian delegation, but I do believe that, bearing in mind that Albania is taking over the chairmanship in office of the OSCE on the 1st of January, when the representative of the chairman in office speaks at the plenary session, opportunities should be given to the representatives of Albania and indeed to our special representative, my colleague, Mr. Pritchard, our special representative of the Balkans, for there to be some discussion and information about the situation in Albania, because I don't want to make prejudicial comments on one side or the other, but clearly there are issues in that country which is actually then going to be leading the OSCE and an organisation committed to democracy and all the matters with which we speak at great length. So I hope that can be accommodated in the agenda. The second point that I would like to raise is this, Mr. President, which was briefly mentioned by the representative from Azerbaijan, and that is the whole Silk and Belt Road project. And we have the Silk Road Support Group of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, established in on July the 8th, 2017. And it includes parliamentarians from 22 member states. This session is about sustainability. And it does seem to me that whilst the group is concerned with supporting, its very title says support the initiative and the countries participating in it, we ought to be looking at what are the potential consequences for the involvement of our participating states and neighbours in this Chinese project. Are we really satisfied that what is going on is in the interest of sustainability? Are we really satisfied that we are not leading ourselves into certain economic problems? And are we really satisfied that all the assurances that are given, that everything is absolutely wonderful and we can only benefit from it, are we really satisfied by that? Those of us from the United Kingdom who've been watching closely what's been happening in Hong Kong perhaps would just raise a question. And I think, Mr. President, at some stage, the Bureau, if not this standing committee, should look at whether or not we take a much broader view of this initiative before we suddenly find ourselves reacting to situations which we haven't yet perceived, rather than just going along with an initiative saying that we support it. There isn't an answer now and there isn't time now, but I do believe that it is something that needs to be looked at by this organisation in more depth with more time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Peter, for your very, let's say, useful comments on both issues. First, I'd like to apologize to our interpreters. Maybe we need, let's say, 10, 15 more minutes, because there will be three very short comments, and then also some business we have to finish here with the hosts of different customary and our statutory meetings. But just to respond very shortly, just in seconds, we've seen and we, of course, look at this group as a very good instrument for parliamentary oversight. That's exactly what you said. It's not supporting all the initiatives, but thoroughly discussing which initiative could benefit people, which contains threat, and so on and so forth. That's why I said also in my remarks, and thank you for reminding us. Silk Road support is a different. One Belt and One Road is a different project, and the Silk Road is a more, let's say, historical, geographical route. But as you said, we will take into consideration what you said, and of course, as I believe it, all the members and leadership of this group. Now, there are very short, just up to 1 minute, please. Gerasimov, Alizard, and Margaret Kennan-Ellen, and we have to finish then our meeting, just giving floor to our Morocco hosts. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, dear colleagues. I see the report, and I want to say thank you for the leadership of the third committee. I see this report as one more additional brick in our efforts to stop Russia from fueling Russian aggression to Ukraine. Fueling by regular army officers, fueling by military weaponry and equipment, which was many times mentioned by Special Monitoring Mission. And I want to say thank you by increasing this attention to the victims of Russian aggression on the Ukrainian territory. And when we are speaking about what to do, to execute means agreements, Russian counterpart. Execute means agreements. To stop shelling, to close the border, and to stop fueling this war. Thank you.
Please, Pascal Alizard. Where Pascal, please.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, merci. Très rapidement, je voudrais féliciter Roberto pour sa redésignation et le remercier aussi pour la qualité du travail que nous pouvons faire ensemble. Simplement, Monsieur le Président, j'ai écouté avec beaucoup d'attention les rapports présentés et j'ai eu la possibilité, il y a quelques semaines, de participer à une mission OTAN et d'embarquer sur un vol à Wax pour mesurer un petit peu les travaux de réarmement d'un certain nombre d'États le long de la Baltique. Et je voudrais simplement vous dire, et à la lumière de ce que nous venons d'échanger ce matin, que la situation est très très inquiétante et que je crois qu'il faut vraiment que nous trouvions la voie du dialogue pour essayer de régler un certain nombre de problèmes, parce que la course aux armements est réelle, j'ai pu le constater de visu. Et juste un point pour dire à Laure Bonnès que sur l'aspect route de la soie, je partage complètement son analyse et que c'est une bonne chose que notre Assemblée parlementaire s'intéresse au sujet, et vous dire que c'est un sujet sur lequel je travaille au quotidien et que l'Union européenne, par exemple, a été particulièrement défaillante sur ce sujet. Nous gagnerions tous à avoir une action coordonnée. Je vous remercie.
Please, and we will finish now.
Merci beaucoup. Je voulais aussi réagir à l'intervention faite par le Royaume-Uni. La délégation suisse a été membre fondateur du groupe de soutien pour la route de la soie. Contrairement à la France, qui est également membre de ce groupe, je pense que le Royaume-Uni ne s'y est pas encore joint. Alors faites-le. Je vous invite, en tant que présidente de la délégation suisse, à venir à la 3e conférence de ce groupe interne à l'APOSCE qui se tiendra début septembre. Je ne peux que vous inviter à la 3e conférence de ce groupe qui se tiendra du 5 au 7 septembre à Andermatt, au cœur des Alpes suisses, sur la ligne du Gotthard, où nous thématiserons précisément les points importants et critiques sur la haute surveillance parlementaire, la durabilité des finances, et puis, comment lutter contre la corruption, quels instruments pour la transparence, quels instruments pour la bonne gouvernance des projets et comment agir au niveau des parlements afin de garantir au pays qu'ils puissent, avec une forte surveillance parlementaire, avec des marchés publics aussi, avec du respect pour les droits humains des populations touchées, avec du respect pour les droits humains des travailleurs et de la population locale, comment trouver une piste constructive pour accompagner ces projets. On sait toutes et tous, c'est des projets qui viendront. Alors, accompagnons-les, discutions-les. Sur ça, je vous rejoins. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. With this, we're concluding the part of this agenda on international affairs, and thank you very much for your interventions. Now, briefly information on our upcoming meetings of the ACPA Parliament Assembly in 2019. 20 maybe. Autumn meeting in Marrakesh, October 2019, and it will take place in Morocco. And I'd like to give floor for very short comments. It's always at this part of agenda. I'd like to apologize to Mohamed El Bakour to say a few words, because we know all the information, but it's interesting how proceedings are going on now and preparations. Please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je tiens tout d'abord à adresser nos plus vifs remerciements au Grand-Duché de Luxembourg pour l'accueil chaleureux et les efforts déployés pour assurer la réussite de cette session qui débattra un thème d'une grande importance. Permettez-moi aussi d'exprimer notre gratitude au Président de l'Assemblée parlementaire de l'OCE ainsi au Secrétariat général pour l'excellent travail visant à promouvoir un partenariat plus étroit avec le Royaume du Maroc, qui est devenu un partenaire fiable dans l'architecture actuelle de la sécurité mondiale, tout en espérant renforcer davantage notre coopération afin de relever les défis à la sécurité qui menacent la stabilité de notre région euro-méditerranéenne. Nous sommes fermement convaincus de la nécessité de développer un dialogue permanent et de s'engager dans une coopération plus dynamique. La prochaine session d'automne, qui se tiendra à la merveilleuse ville de Marrakech du 4 au 6 octobre 2019, sous le thème de la sécurité dans la région euro-méditerranéenne, le rôle de l'OCE et ses partenaires, sera sans aucun doute l'occasion de resserrer les liens de cette organisation avec ses partenaires méditerranéens et d'établir un partenariat d'exception. C'est un grand honneur et un réel plaisir de vous accueillir tous. C'est un grand honneur et un réel plaisir de vous accueillir tous au mois d'octobre prochain au Royaume du Maroc, la terre d'hospitalité, de vertu, de tolérance et de paix. On serait très ravis de vous voir nombreux. Merci pour votre attention.
Thank you very much, dear Mohammed El Bakouri. We already saw the nice corner there promoting the meeting, and we're confident that it will be very interesting for all our members and beyond of this assembly. Now, our autumn meeting, we passed already, winter meeting, as of course, as always, as customary, Austrian Parliament and Austria will host us in Vienna. It will be 21st of February, and I look forward, of course, to seeing all of you there. Our Austrian delegation is here. Thank you very much for hosting us there every year. So, 29th annual session in Vancouver, 2020. You know, that's agreed, decided, and Heidi Fry was a driving force to leading us to this decision. And now I'd like to ask her to say also a few words. Dear Heidi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President. Can you hear me? Good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to welcoming you all to Vancouver, and hopefully I can elaborate a little bit at the plenary session later on this afternoon. But what I wanted to tell you is that I would love to see you at 5:30 p.m. outside the plenary room, where we will have some British Columbia wines from Canada for you to savor, and hopefully it's going to be a taste of things to come, which I can elaborate on further on in the plenary. But we're looking forward to this. And by the way, just as we see today is the Independence Day of the United States of America. When you arrive next year in Canada, we will be celebrating the 1st of July, which is Canada Day, and we hope you can come early enough to participate, because it's going to be a great party, as it always is in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, this is a great day for all the world, the Independence Day of United States. We kept the nice words for plenary session, and we celebrated it here in Luxembourg yesterday. So once again, I'd like to congratulate. And now our autumn meeting, it's still open, 2020. So please, we need your ideas and your generous support. And now invitations for assemblies meetings also in future. I'd like to remind you that 2021 annual session will be held in Bucharest, according kind, let's say, invitation and a preliminary decision of our Romanian colleagues. So now also discussions are going on with several delegations of future autumn meetings and annual sessions. I'd like to ask our friend head of delegation of Ireland, Alan Farrell, to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And on my own behalf and on behalf of the Irish Parliament, the Oireachtas na hÉireann, I'm delighted to confirm to the Parliamentary Assembly that Dublin will host the 2021 autumn session on the 4th to the 6th of October in historic Dublin Castle, which is over 800 years old. Very much looking forward to welcoming delegations to Dublin. I know the Parliamentary Assembly has been in Dublin in the past, but this will be a renewed opportunity to visit Dublin. And in particular, I will take the opportunity of mentioning that you will all land in my constituency of Dublin Fingal and Dublin Airport, which handles over 32 million passengers and is in the midst of adding a second runway. And I'm doing my best to ensure that the parliamentary delegates who attend will have the opportunity to sample some of the delights of my own constituency. So, Mr. President, on behalf of the Irish Parliament, I'd like to welcome members of this delegation, of this Parliamentary Assembly, to Dublin in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Great announcement. Great announcement. Thank you very much, dear Alan. And we're looking forward to come and see you in action in your constituency. And we know hospitality of Ireland already. So there are discussions also with other countries to host our events, and we're always, let's say, motivating and encouraging participating states to contribute in this way. It's really great help, and please, we are open for your suggestions. With this, if it's any questions on this topic, then thank you very much for great cooperation for the Standing Committee, and the meeting is concluded. Thanks. Thank you.
Great.
Well done.
Sorry for keeping you waiting a little bit.
Very good. Sorry, I mean, I really shouldn't have taken
No,
up
no,
your
no.
time. But
No, but okay.
I mean, the
But
thing.
this